going to get started this morning, and we're going to be reading from the book of Ruth today, and it's called A New Beginning. A New Beginning. And here we go. I know that most of you that are on have read the book of Ruth before, but if you haven't read it from start to finish, I just want to challenge you to read it. It's such a beautiful story, and from it you can extrapolate so many different lessons, so many different stories. But the one that I want to focus on today is the determination, the desire that Ruth had, and mainly because of her loyalty and love towards her mother-in-law. So I'm going to read now from Ruth chapter 1. Here we go. In the days when the judges governed Israel, there was a famine in the land. And a certain man of Bethlehem in Judah went to live temporarily in the country of Moab with his wife and 2 sons. The man's name was Elimelech, and his wife's name was Naomi, and his 2 sons were named Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites. They were from the tribe of Ephraim, from Bethlehem in Judah, and they went to the country of Moab, and they stayed there. Then Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left a widow with her 2 sons. They took wives from the Moabite women. The name of one was Orpah, and the name of the other was Ruth. And they lived there about 10 years. And then both Mahlon and Chilion also died. Wow, how devastating, right? So the woman Naomi was left without her 2 sons and her husband. Now, the Bible here is telling us the desperate and desolate situation that Naomi has been left in. Not only did her husband die, but her 2 arrows, her 2 mighty men of valor passed away. So basically, as we're reading this text, we know that Ruth is, the reader is wanting us to know that Naomi has nothing left. Not only that, she was taken by her husband to the land of Moab to live. We know that Moab was a place where they worshiped other gods. We know that it was a place where the God of Israel was not worshiped. And not only that, but they were an idolatrous nation. So why Elimelech would want to leave the house of bread to go into a dry and desolate country, we do not know. But we do know that it was a time of famine, even in the house of bread. But most famines, as we read in all the Bible, in Israel, they were temporary, whether they be for 3 years, whether they be for 7 years. But we know that the time of flourishing always returned. But Elimelech decides that he will leave Bethlehem to go to Moab. So here we go into the story. And I love this story so much because we're going to see in one of the daughter-in-laws, which by the name we've said is Ruth, we're going to see this character trait in her. We're going to see this passion. We're going to see loyalty. And we're going to see her fervor for a new beginning. I see that 11 women are on right now. And we're going to see that new beginnings are possible, no matter what place in life you're in. We're going to see the new beginning in Naomi. Naomi, by the way, her name means joy. Her name means splendor, right? But we're going to see that this desolate situation that she's in even leads her to a place to say, don't even call me Naomi right now, because the Lord has dealt harshly with me. I want you to call me Mara. Mara means just that. The Lord has dealt harshly with me. Mind you, her name means joy, but because life has dealt harshly with her, she wants her name to change. And sometimes when we're walking through temporary seasons of desolation, we want to name ourselves after that season, right? We want to say, you know what? Don't even call me joy right now. Call me, it's a harsh moment. Call me depression. Call me confused. Call me broke and poor. Call me there's no provision, right? You ever heard that? Call me sick. You know, have you ever dealt with people who are going through injury or a physical handicap? They want to call themselves that handicap. I always tell people who have a cane, don't say that's my cane. Don't say that's my wheelchair. Don't say that's my medication. It's just temporary, right? And Naomi, she wanted to call herself Mara. Right now, I want to let you women know, do not base your temporary circumstances on your identity, because our identity comes from Christ. So here we go. We're going to see this extravagant statement that Ruth, which is the daughter-in-law, gives her mother-in-law, because they are literally at a crossroads. Ruth and Orpah, they're literally saying goodbye to Naomi. Naomi is ready to go back home to Bethlehem. She hears that there's no longer a drought in the house of bread. And she says, I gotta go back to my homeland. I gotta go back to my people, and I gotta go back to my God, because Moab has dealt harshly with me. I came in full, but now I feel empty. So she's at this crossroads, kissing Orpah goodbye. Orpah kissing her one daughter-in-law, saying, go back to your people, go back to Moab, don't come with me. I understand. So she turns and goes back to Moab. And now it's Ruth's turn to give her final farewell to Naomi, her mother-in-law. But Ruth, she saw attributes in her mother-in-law that were so strong. Even though her mother-in-law was going through loss, there was something about the God of Naomi that Ruth could not let go of. So this is what she says at the crossroads. Entreat me not to leave you or to turn back from following after you, Naomi, for wherever you go, I will go. And wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, Naomi, will be my God. What an extravagant statement she's making. She's saying, I am willing to leave Moab. I am willing to leave my false gods. I am willing to leave everything, mother-in-law, to follow you. Wow. God is always the God of newness. And the Bible is continually referring to the fact that it's never too late for a new beginning. To Isaiah, The Lord said, behold, I am doing a new thing. To Ezekiel, he said, I will give them one heart and I will put a new spirit within them. The author of Hebrews said this, I'm going to give you a new and living way. And that's Hebrews chapter 10, verse 20. And in the book of Revelations, when the King of Kings has come to redeem his people and salvation will be ours eternally, he says, and he who sat on the throne said, behold, I make all things new. The Bible is filled with new beginnings. And I love that God, he never wants to keep us in our present circumstance. Right now at Lighthouse, we're hearing this so much from our sermons. Pastor Sam has been saying, we're going to thrive. When you thrive, you can't stay in the same place that you're in. To elevate, right? When we're elevating our lives, it means we can't stay in our present circumstance. We're always moving. We're always going towards the call of God. We're always going to a fresh new day, into a new ministry. And this morning when I was praying for you before I came on, I didn't know who would be watching, and I don't know who will come back on to watch this on YouTube. But I'm praying that you would not stay in your present circumstance, but that today God would reveal a new ministry, that the dream that you've had would be awakened in your life, that he would begin to give you a reset, just those new thoughts to, I have this call, I have this desire, whether it be to open up a new connect group, whether it be to invite people into your home, to teach a Bible study, whether it be for a desire to just do something for God. Right now, I tell you, you just put that seed in the ground. You put it in the ground and God is going to bring the increase. He is going to bring the increase. So may it be awakened right now. I know I have this desire and I want to speak it. I have a desire to bring back, right pre-COVID, I started, and I was calling it, I'm trying to think of what I was calling it, Fortitude, which was a mentorship, discipleship class where I was bringing young women in, and it was a 6-week course on the book of Nehemiah. And I'll tell you, that was just so life-changing, not only to my life as the one teaching it, but to these young women that God was bringing to me. And I'm speaking it right now because I've had this desire to start it again. I told Erica Yee, because I needed to speak it out. Erica, I'm going to start this connect group, okay? And she's like, Caroline, whenever you're ready, let's go for it. So I am speaking it out because I truly want to do this. So a new beginning, a new vision, a new ministry. So when the famine came to Bethlehem, Naomi, her husband, and her 2 sons fled and they settled in Moab. Her sons married Moabite women. The Moabites were a race that were born in incest and people who observed a false religion. Again, I'm just doing a little recap. When Naomi's husband died and her 2 sons. So Naomi's left with her 2 daughter-in-laws and she decides to return back to Bethlehem. And at this crossroads, she encouraged the 2 women to go back to their people, go back to their God, follow me. But we know that Ruth, she clings to Naomi. And this clinging is just not like clinging, oh, please don't leave me. No, it's an intense clinging. It's this spiritual cling. Like you and I are one. Naomi, and I cannot leave you. It's almost like that desperation of when for those of you who have children, when you gave your baby to someone else to hold on to, and I know I had my daughter Lisette. She wanted nothing but mama's arms when she was a baby. And I would give her to someone else. Sometimes I just needed a little relief, right? But she would scream her heart out. And once she came back to me, she would cling to me like nobody's business, because like, you're my mama and I am clinging to you. And that was the cling that Ruth had towards her mother-in-law. I am not leaving you, Mom. I am not going to even consider going or even staying in Moab without you. Wow. And I love that. I love that that Ruth, let me kind of rephrase this. Have you ever been in a place where you are saying, Lord, I want to hear from you. Speak to me. Bring me a prophetic word. May I hear a word from God this morning? You know, we always want to hear from God, but I love that Ruth, she was not in a position to hear from God. Like, I don't want to hear from God. Should I go? What do I do? Lord, tell me. No, she was making a statement. She was making a commitment. Say, I am going with you and I am going with your God. It's like, no, I am making a declaration to you, Naomi. I'm following you. A personal renewal always brings a new determination. I want you to write that down. When you're about ready to go into a new beginning, there's a new determination. When Ruth said, entreat me not to leave you, she was declaring that even though her sister-in-law Orpah had turned back, with a new determination, she would cling to Naomi. Even though the road would be hard, wasn't going to be easy for Ruth, she would follow. Mind you, the walk alone back to Israel, back to Bethlehem would be difficult. Just getting from point A to point B, not even making a new life, not even starting your new beginning, just walking alone. It would be a 30 to 50 mile journey, right? Like they say, it would be a 30 mile, as the crow flies. It could be a 7 to 10 day walk. Okay, it would be like maybe from here to San Clemente, more or less, here to Oceanside, more or less. But mind you, two women during the time, the Bible says that this was a time of judges where every man did what he pleased. It was a time of men didn't even honor women. It was a time when women were like literally on the bottom of the totem pole. So two widowed women would be prey to bandits. Not only that, it was an unpaved road. It was treacherous terrain. It was not even a walk back to Bethlehem. It would be more like a hike. So you had to be physically fit. You had to be mentally capable. You had to have fortitude because you didn't know what you were going to encounter. It would be a scary walk, right? So Ruth's decision came when all the influences were against her. Wow. When new things come to us, they bring a new determination. And we say to God what Ruth said to Naomi, entreat me not to leave you or turn back from following after you. a personal renewal. A new beginning also brings a new direction. It brings a new compass. That's scary. Where are you taking me, Lord? Where you lead me, I will follow. Ruth continued, for where you go, I will go. I'm going in this new direction. And in other words, she was saying, this will be my life's direction, where you lead me, Naomi. A new direction is always an indication of a genuine renewal. We begin to become interested in the things that God is interested in. We become interested in the place that God wants us to go to. As Ruth was to Naomi, so shall we be to Christ when personal renewal fills our heart. The kind of relationship brings a new determination and a new direction. Christ becomes the way we follow. And yes, he makes all things new. A new beginning and renewal brings a new dependence. Okay, you're going to hear a few more D's before we close today. Ruth declared, wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Ruth was declaring that she would trust Naomi to meet her basic needs, right? Wow. Ruth had no place to lay her head at night. However, her new determination was instilled in Naomi, and a new dependence on God. Ruth knew that home was in the middle of God's will. Ruth knew that home would be wherever her mother-in-law, Naomi, would lodge. Wow. When personal renewal comes and a new beginning, it is accompanied by a new degree of trusting God to meet our basic needs. You know that God wants to meet your basic needs today? Sometimes we're wondering where the provision is going to come from. And I'm here to let you know that God is concerned about every detail, even those basic needs that you have. And what are the basic needs? Food, water, right? A place to lay our head. But the God that even we serve is the God of abundance. Even those basic, not only will he give us those basic provisions, but he will give us the better than before anointing, right? A new beginning brings a new desire. Your people shall be my people. Following Naomi brought a new desire in Ruth to embrace even Naomi's people. I love that. And I love what we see right now, even happening at Lighthouse. We have so many people coming, getting baptized. They're coming from different religion. Some of them were atheists. Some of them came from religions that served other gods, served other idols. And they're saying with this new determination, I want a new beginning in my life. I want to serve the God that you serve, but your people shall be my people. And we're seeing that determination there because they're coming alongside some of us that have been serving God for so many years. And they're saying, you know what? I want to even be with you. Joining connect groups. Last night, we were in the foundations class. It was week 1 of foundations. I mean, there was about 22 people there sitting, like there's this new determination saying, you know what? We want what you have. And Ruth said, your people, Naomi, will be my people. And I love that. I love that so much. And when we begin to follow Christ, we need to learn to be with his people. You got to hang out with God's people, right? If we were chickens before, we can't keep hanging out with chickens. It's like that eagle, that was hanging out with the chickens. One day, the other eagle comes by and says, you're an eagle and not a chicken. The eagle says, what? And he begins to soar. Shall mount up like wings of an eagle, right? Yeah, we got to hang out with God's people. And Ruth knew that. Personal renewal, right? A new beginning brings a new devotion. A new devotion. And Ruth said to Naomi, your God shall be my God. I mean, what more could she ask for? Because she saw in Naomi such a love for God. Even though Naomi had suffered hardship, Naomi still had that love in God that she was able to share with her daughter-in-laws. Your God shall be my God. And she was saying, I'm not only taking on your people as my people, but your God as my God. Wow. And if you ever wanted to see a New Testament or an Old Testament conversion, that was it. It was the most beautiful conversion you have ever seen. And even in the Old Testament, we see God opening up salvation to everyone. It was not just for his people. It was for all people who wanted to say, you know what? I'm leaving everything behind me to follow you. And I had shared this with my Connect group last week at our women's prayer group. I was thinking about my conversion. I never had thought about my conversion. I always would say, when I was baptized at the age of 14 years old, and I went back to a memory and I went back to a date. But in the fact, I think it was about 3 weeks ago when we were doing our live prayer at the church on Saturday morning, and Bo was on the organ. And every time I hear the organ, it takes me back to that new beginning when I was newly baptized. But when he was playing the organ, it's like God put this new word. He says, Caroline, no, it wasn't just the time you were baptized. It was the time that you were converted, when you made this conversion to follow me. And it settled in my spirit. It's like, yeah, that was my conversion process. When I heard that organ at Camp Sealy, when we were getting ready to go to chapel, it's like you could hear that organ play. And it was Chucky Escamilla back then. And I remembered that camp. One of the first songs that I heard during my conversion was, I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. And I remembered when I would sing that song, I didn't really care for the melody. It's like, I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. I have decided to follow Jesus. No turning back, no turning back. And then the other stanza said, though none go with me, still I will follow. And I remember at the age of 14, when I sang that part, I meant it with all my heart. And mind you, at the age of 14, you're influenced by your peers. You want to have peer status. You don't want to do things alone. You want to walk. You want to be in the crowd after church, or you want to be with your peers. And I remember singing that song, and it was scary to say, though none go with me, still I will follow. Lord, I'm going to follow you. I am committed to you. And it was so beautiful that even at that young age, I knew that. And I believe that Ruth didn't know what she was walking into, but because she made that commitment, she made that devotion, your God will be my God. I'm serving him. I'm not bringing with me, I got a little bird here. I'm not bringing a little idol in my pocket and, just in case I need to run to this, just in case I'm going to hold on to this little God. It reminds me of Rachel in the Bible. Remember when she followed her husband Jacob back to Canaan? She left her father Laban, and she left Syria to go to the new land that God had promised Jacob, that he would begin to flourish there. The blessing of Abraham, and to his children, I will multiply your generations. You'll be a blessing. But Rachel, she took a little God with her. Wow. Ruth didn't do that. She said, your God's going to be my God. I'm giving it all up. Wow. A new dedication. It was a new dedication. She says, even where you die, I will die. And where you are buried, I will be buried. Talk about understanding the resurrection. Ruth knew. She knew that if I hang out with Naomi, Naomi's God is the God of resurrection. Dead things are restored. That was so powerful. We need that same dedication, and it's going to cost us everything. And we know that Ruth would eventually die, but she would marry Boaz. She would marry Boaz. He was the kinsman redeemer. Read Ruth.